Hey guys, good day. Back at it again with episode 2 of the Coach Connection, Mastering Youth Sports with your two hosts, Coach Eric and Coach Sergio. Hey Coach Sergio, how you doing today?
Good, Eric. Great to catch up with you. Great to catch up with hearing the feedback after the first episode, and just excited to keep this going.
Yeah, no, awesome. Super thrilled honestly to be doing it and super thankful to have us two back at, week 2 and talking about, staying consistent and trying to stack days. So this goes back to that, that theory of just trying to we're both busy right now, so we're trying to just our best to like make time for this. So super thankful for your time, of course.
Yeah,
So episode 2, right? We were talking, as always, guys. By the way, we always like obviously are gonna free speak here, but we do have a little bit of a plan of what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do it, guys, because we feel like that's the way to really deliver some high quality knowledge, because that's what we're trying to do here is just like expand for parents and athletes to get better and have a better understanding of this whole strength and conditioning, sports development side. So again, Coach Sergio, sports, soccer, a very high level, and I'm a strength and conditioning coach, also youth, a high level. So with that being said, right, guys, Coach, off-season training, right, is a topic for today, right, and kind of what to do in the summer, right?
yeah, and coming up to the end of the well, it's the summer officially if you go outside, but we're coming up to the end of all the seasons, and as we talked about last week, it's tryout season in the soccer world. But people are starting to sign their offers. And I guess the natural topic that came up is what do we do next? What's the next step? How do I hit the ground running in August and make a big jump the next season? Which every athlete, every youth athlete, I think their goal is to take a step up from wherever they're starting, whatever that means for them. So I think it's the perfect time to touch on this and the differences and things to focus on in the off season. So
Yeah, summertime is I mean, I know me and you as old athletes, right? We I mean for me, right? We've never spoke about this probably like in person, but for me, like the summer was the time to try to get better and make sure I made the team the next year and make sure that I felt like I worked on stuff that probably wasn't as good at and of course didn't do it the right way, but at least I was there trying to. And I think that's like super important for kids to understand that this is the time to really level up. You have less school, so you have more
I was
time.
about to say that's what I remember.
What are you gonna do with that time? You have all this extra time. How are you gonna use it? Because you could really be working on your sports skill and obviously getting more athletic. If you have a plan, if you have an idea of what you're gonna do. So I think summertime is the best time to, like we were speaking, doubling down, right? Like if you already have a process, then it's probably the best time to try to do more of that. But obviously with balance, because like anything, too much of anything could be detrimental. So, or it might hurt us more than help us. So we have to be aware of that. But okay, so with that being said, coach, what do you consider? Is there a difference in the off season training from like the regular training that you'll do year round?
Well, I wanted to go back real quick to talk about the summer when we were growing up because, yes, obviously there's no school, but you wake up in the morning and Eric, going back, it's straight to the court, straight to the fields. That was the time. I mean, no one was guiding us, but we
Mhm.
still went out to play and to work on our game and more than once a day, morning, afternoon, evenings. And I think looking back, yes, it's a beautiful childhood. Maybe some of the kids are missing that element today, but also there was no plan for us.
Right.
And, again, understanding that moving forward with the times, kids have way more information, way more of a way to attack the summer than we did. As much fun as we had, we definitely, like I said, we're not planning, whether it was regular weight room sessions, we were going in there and doing curls. But hey,
For
I
sure.
think it's just a sign of the times. And I think athletes these days could really take advantage. There's more coaches around, there's more camps, opportunities than ever to really level up, and I think that's the goal of the summer. For me, from a team standpoint and from each individual athlete I train, I'm trying to bring them up in the summer while maybe some kids without a plan or some kids that are, at home watching TV and on the couch, they're gonna definitely take a step past those kids. So I think it's an opportunity in the summer for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely the time. And two things I want to touch base on that you touched right now was first it's that extra information what the athletes right now what you guys have access to. Like, I don't think the athletes really understand how awesome it is to be able to watch what a high level athlete is doing. You could see what Cristiano Ronaldo does. You could see what Messi does. You could see what Steph Curry does. You could see how they train, who they train with. If you even have that, you could even try to hire those trainers if it's somehow possible for you to be able to work with some really high level coaches, which for us, we didn't have access to that. There was like none of us, like me and you, which is why we do what we do, is because there wasn't a bunch of us, and we
There are
understood that
very
there
few.
was a gap for that. And obviously that's my big why I love doing strength and conditioning for kids, because it really just helps kids, it gives them that information, and that, and like, because like I think, definitely me and you wanted to be better, like we wanted to get better, but like when you don't have any guidance, it's kind of hard. So that's where also now the guidance is super valuable, because if there's so much information and you don't pick the right information, and you don't have a plan, and you don't have somebody to hold you accountable, then you might be training and getting absolutely nothing out of it, which is kind of where we were back in the day without the guidance. Yeah, you guys might be able to have better access to trainings and what to do, but if it's not done right, and obviously if it's there's no accountability or anybody to try to help you get better, then you're gonna hit a wall naturally on your own. It's just what's gonna happen. So those are two things that I love that you touch base on, because those are super important, guys. Overload of information, know how to navigate, pick some good trainers. And yeah, the next thing, right, coach? Is there even an off-season training anymore? Because like how me and you coach our clients year round, I think that's something we should touch on real quick about, like, obviously we're gonna double down in the off season because we have more time, but the smart approach is the full year of training towards your goal. Obviously having time off, but and picking your times to rest, because you need to rest too. But obviously understanding that, for example, off-season training to most people is like, okay, we're going to work out in the summer, but then from summer to next summer we're not going to work out at all.
Correct.
And I think that's why we're going to touch base on this right now, because that's really silly. If you really think about it, that's really silly. And of course, it's going to be hard for you to improve, like make jumps, like what we're talking about. It's going to be hard to make jumps from summer to summer if you got to climb back every summer because you didn't do anything the whole year. Right. So touch base on that a little bit, coach.
So yeah. So definitely. Well, I think we should talk about what differentiates us compared to the typical training, because, like you said, the regular training is uh, they start to do this extra stuff in the summer, when really this stuff should be a priority throughout the year. It shouldn't be too differentiated from the regular programming. However, because of the demands, I would say, from like the club soccer world, because of just people's schedule, whatever reason that people find not to prioritize these things, clubs that overlook strength and conditioning, they see it as a preseason thing or as a off-season thing. This is super common in soccer, all sports for sure. And it's not to say that there isn't times where you do need a really highly focused camp to get ready for the season. However, it should not be an introduction or a reintroduction. It should just be even pushing harder with the concepts that are always been part of the program. And we could talk about what those are, but I also think it's important to consider, team sports, specific sports, because there's so many aspects that a regular club practice is just not gonna offer the time or the know-how or the patience to teach kids that. And that's where I see an opportunity in the summer with specific sports, specific skills, to hone in on those skills as well. And I think that's more of just a reality of the time that's available and that's dedicated by these clubs during the season.
Yeah, ultimately, I think you're on the nail with it. It's a time thing, because that's what I think parents and athletes, I think, don't realize. Because let's go two different scenarios of kids, right? One kid is training, 5 times a week, plus games, plus whatever, and then you have another kid. And when I say five, it's because they're doing two extra on their own, whether it's with the trainer or by themselves or whatever. You add those extra two, and then you have the kid that only does the three or two that come, with the club. So over time, like that's gonna add up. I think people don't realize, like, that's gonna add up. So if like your kid's not doing anything extra throughout the year, he's gonna fall back behind. And it sucks to say because I think people don't want to hear that. And that's another thing that goes with like, and obviously the quality of the training plays a big role. But we talked, we spoke last week on podcast one where I was saying like when I'm talking to parents, I'm telling them, hey, this is like a long term investment to get what you really want. Like if you want a more athletic kid or you want a more skilled player, like it's like a couple years of work to really see the big difference. Like you're gonna see little flashes throughout the time span, but like if you want to get really fast, like and it's got to be in a, and that has to be a numbers thing. That's going to take some time because if you think that only being a little faster is going to help you, like, then that's when you're like not going to really see the whole benefit of speed training. It's like you got to try to get much faster than you used to be and then be in your sport and be like, wow, so like this is the difference of being this fast and like being able to change direction faster and make decisions faster, right? So all this stuff, even though it goes with the speed, what I'm saying is like it comes down to again, like we have to be willing to invest a nice little bit of time for you to see the fruit of your labor. So even for people that train with a trainer for like a month and then maybe nothing really happens, sometimes it's not all the trainer's fault. Sometimes it could be because what does your kid bring into the table? Like how hard does he work when he's there to take advantage of that hour? Because we got maybe an hour, depending on some of the group settings, could be an hour and a half, right? But that's it. And that's still only a little bit of time. So it's like, what do you do with that? And then the next thing is like, in 4 weeks, like you're not really, I mean, you're going to see some change, but you're not going to really see a big change
Yeah, it's
in that small period of a time. So I think parents need to realize that like this, like anything, like for example, if your kid's been playing whatever sport he's been playing since he was 9 and he's 13 now, you got to realize like the reason he's good at that sport is because he's been playing for 4 years.
of course.
And he might have been kind of good year one, year two, whatever, but he's whatever he is now is more than likely. And the reason you're getting more training and want to get better is because now they're getting to a point where they're not separating themselves from the field like they used to. So you're trying to figure out what you could do as a parent to help them, or like the kid, or some kids are driven, right? We get some kids sometimes that they're there because like they ask the parent that they want some training
That's what
because they want to get better.
yeah. The most important thing I thought you said was how hard is the kid working in the session? Because for me, that's the number one key to all this. If they are giving, we give them the answers to the test, but if they are taking that initiative, that drive, they're up for every rep. They're not kicking the ball away and walking to it. Those honestly, those are the players that I want to train, and those are my favorite sessions. And I'm happy to say that most of my clients are that way. And I'm not going to lie to you, I do pre-select them that way because no matter where some is, if they are putting in that max effort for that hour, they are going to progress. And they're going to keep getting better, and you see it. Those kids are the ones that improve the fastest, and I believe they stick with it longer. Now the question is, what do we do as coaches to keep feeding that, and where does that come from? Is that like, can that be taught? Is that from God? Like, because some kids have it and some kids
Yeah, I
just
think
build
I
the
think it's
confidence and
internal.
get it. I've seen that, but I don't know if I've ever seen a lazy kid suddenly become the hardest worker. I think those habits got to be built early, and I think something from the inside. What do you think,
Yeah,
Coach?
I think it's internal, coach. I agree with you 100%. I think it's internal. I think it's like a self-driven thing,
But can it be turned on?
and when you play with nah, I can't. When you play with when you like work with a lot of kids, you start realizing that like what we're talking about, there's like I would say a good 20% of kids that have that and the other 80 are working on trying to get it or should be trying to get it. And then there's obviously some kids that probably will never get it. And the thing with this self-driven thing, I think that parents should be aware of is that like if you have a child like that, like you should be pretty happy because like they're gonna keep doing this for the rest of their life. This is something that's just not just because they're sport, like they're probably wired that way. And so you got to be super thankful. And maybe it is environmental. Like I don't have
Partly,
kids yet, but you as a parent maybe can touch base a little bit on that and what you think about that aspect of like the environment playing a key role, and not just it being internal.
well, I think if we're going to be honest as coaches, right? We're going to always, I know you're this way. I'm always self assessing myself. How did that session go? What could I do better? But just an obvious statement, your kid is not gonna work the same way with one coach than with another. And I guess the question is why, and I guess this could lead into the next subject that we wanted to talk about, some or at least I wanted to touch on some qualities of like what is that? Why does my kid have a great session with this coach all the time? He wants to go back and he's still being pushed, he's still showing improvement. And then how come with this other coach, maybe it's not the same, or he's dragging his feet, or the worst thing I think as a parent is that he goes back feeling bad about himself,
I think it's
with
important.
less
Yeah, I think
confidence.
those two things are important, coach, because obviously, like we were talking last week, is like you have to find that connection with the player. Obviously, like the players know, like I think at the level you coach, which is travel mostly, like the players kind of already know what they want. So they're a little more inclined to, like, if you want, like they're more understanding of like, hey, look, I have like you were saying earlier, I have the solution to your problem. Like, if you listen to me and we work at this together, then I'm telling you we can get there. But obviously, like, this is the maturity of each player, right? Each kid to be able to be aware and say, okay, I'm gonna really, like, and I hate to say the word buy in because that's not like what you really want to say from a kid, but it's like to trust you and work, like, okay, I'm gonna try to do it the best I can, and I'm gonna try my hardest every time I'm with coach. And that's when I say, like, I think that's part of like the connection that the coach has with the player, the type of training, right? Is a training like, Tony Holner, the big speed coach that I've, like, pretty much emulated to do my speed training. He talks about gamifying things and things being fun. So I think definitely, like, you got to listen to your kid. If your kid's looking forward to doing something, that's probably where you want to be spending more time. And then that's where we talk about now in the summer, right? If there's a place that the kid would rather go, we probably want to double down on that with that coach or that environment, or the club or whatever, wherever it is that the kid's willing to go and work hard. You probably want to keep him there more than the other scenarios where he might not be as enthused to want to go and practice.
Right, and I love what you said about connection, because I think the word that I was thinking was trust. Like, does the kid trust this guy, not just his character, but is he going to actually make me better? And of course, the ones that are naturally motivated, they do get better, and then that just compounds. And you've seen it, man. I've seen it. Kids take off, and you're their guy forever, man. And it's beautiful. You get to see those long term results that way.
And this something to touch base on that too, since you're saying, like, what happens sometimes too, which we touched base last week, I think a little bit, was that, a parent will come for 6 months, 9 months, kid will get a lot better. You're hearing a lot of compliments, you're doing really good. Maybe the schedule gets busy, and now because you've
You take your
achieved that,
break.
like, new level, then now you stop coming. And then, like, and then I get a call 3 months later of like, hey, we need to get his athleticism back. We need to get his step back. And it's like, I mean, yeah, because it's like all this stuff that me and you were talking about. You gotta train it. You gotta keep training it. Like, you gotta get it, and then you gotta keep it. And obviously, as you keep it, you want to, like, try to elevate it. But this is where, again, even from last week, we were saying, to get a little bit better in high level sports is like a big deal,
You
because
got
if
to bring it every day.
everybody's really good, so if you're a little better, so you got to constantly be trying to push that little better to really evolve or be like one of the better players in whatever sport you're playing. Once you're at those high levels that we were talking about, once you're pretty good, because everybody's really good at that level. So you got to be a little better, and it's just the name of the game, which I think parents sometimes don't understand, and kids either, because they'll be like, oh, I don't know what happened. Well, what happened was that maybe you stopped doing whatever you did to get there. You stopped, and like anything, if you stop doing something, if you stop practicing your sports skill for like 4 weeks, what do you think would happen? You think you would get better? Probably not.
Even if you stop, even if you don't stop, but
Hmm.
if you lose the enthusiasm,
That's
that's
important.
another big factor. And one of the things that I wanted to expand on was like sometimes, especially the old school parents, I see it all the time. They think or they conflate fun with not serious training.
Hmm.
And the reality is you got to have both, because you will burn out. It's not, these kids are not the same. It's not the old days. You cannot just be a dictator out there and expect to connect with the modern 13-year-old. It doesn't work that way. I've been accused sometimes of being a player's coach or whatever, but guess what? I still hold them to standards, and I'm still very demanding, and I still get on them. But I try to lead with love and I try to lead with fun because I know that's what's going to keep them coming back, and that's what's going to keep them getting better.
Yeah.
That's what's going to keep them pushing.
The process, right? Being able to stick to the process for years. That's the hard part. I think that's where a lot of people don't understand. Like, there's a lot of kids that probably we've met in the 12-year-old age group that we're like, man, 6 years from now, that kid could be really good. The problem is will he really put another 6 years of good work in to put himself in that position come
Will
17,
he stay
18?
motivated? So many
So
factors.
many things. We talk about how many kids burn out in travel sports and quit. And I think a lot of that has to do with the demands that they place upon themselves, also with what, the parents demand from the kids. But obviously, you got to be really honest if like a kid is really putting in that extra work. And parents know, and the kids know themselves, because you can't cheat any sport. Like, me and you know it. You practice a lot. You go and get out there, and like things are gonna happen, and you're gonna be like, man, this is why I work. That thing that I said right there that happens from playing doesn't happen if you don't put in that time. You don't have those aha moments or those cool plays or those like, wow, I can't believe I just did that moments if you're not putting in the work. So I think something for parents and athletes to really get to understand that it's you guys control, how good you could be more than anybody else can like impact you. Are you guys willing to really put in some, like we were talking earlier, good effort? And are you down to do it for a nice bit of time? Are you down to do it, like we were saying, when it gets boring, when it's not fun?
Discipline and consistency. That
Right.
the two biggest factors in all this. And I think that we should go into, like, now that parents are looking at summer camps and stuff, like we say putting in the work, but let's get into what is that work, because and how do you know if you're getting the right work for the goals that you want to achieve? Is everything aligned? Is the coach aligned? Is he on the same page for your personal goals? And I guess I would like to ask you, like, if you're going into a new situation or if you're identifying a new trainer or a new coach, how do you know that this guy or girl is really looking out for your best interest long term, and really, I guess, really is going to get you what you want out of it, so that you don't waste time or you don't get got for some money? A lot of
Yeah.
businesses out there too.
That's tough though. That one's tough, coach, because how do you know? How does anybody
Right.
know?
Understanding that parents are not experts in the field, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, but the only thing I will always say is obviously like in our field, there's many ways to go about getting the results. So that's gonna be hard. But what we definitely do is obviously, I think for me is going to be like what I spoke about last week is like, does this person train a decent amount of kids? And like, what level are the kids at? Because there's one thing I will say. If your kid is more of a beginner, you probably want a trainer that's more of a beginner than like somebody who works with only high level athletes, because it's like a whole completely different, like how you got to like wind the kid and help them, and like motivate them. And like we were talking about, being their friend and motivating and encouraging and that stuff. Or like I think the high level players kind of are like that anyway. Like we were talking about, some stuff's just wired. Some kids just got it, and that's part of what makes them, a little bit better than the other kids. Because obviously there's kids that are not wired like that and are still good. So and then the other thing I think I would say, who are they training? How many people are they working with a nice amount of people? And then maybe if you really want to be something that I think it like to put myself on there is like I measure stuff. So is there something maybe the coach can show me, from week to week, month to month, because we're going to be doing this long-term investment, right? That to show you that like, hey, this is working, like this is happening. And I think ultimately the last thing, which again, like that's what I'm saying, it's hard to know whatever, what how to for
But
me, I'm gonna let you touch on that, how you kind of evaluate that. But ultimately to me is like, are the kids playing better in their sport? Because if that's happening, like whoever you're working with is probably helping them out. So yeah, so that's my take on that. But let me hear what you're thinking with this. And
Well, actually, now that you mention it, I honestly think it might be harder to find out what's working than
Mhm.
what's not working, or things
Right, that's cool.
that maybe you should look around and think about, again about where you're taking your athletes to. So I could come up with a red flag right away that I've been thinking about. It's, I guess, if you go somewhere and your trainer doesn't ask you personal questions about about kind of your history, really trying to understand you, I guess. And instead, if they're just spitting out, a program without without relaying how it's specific for you, I would say that's a major red flag. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think communication, back to the connection, communication, those
Right.
two C words. But yeah, I think, yeah, as a parent, maybe look into that. We talked about measurables. Can the coach show me something measuring that I can see, right? So a red flag is, yeah, does, like, because again, one thing is, maybe depending on your kid's age, some kids don't like their parents to be like at the sessions. But I encourage parents to at least watch a couple of sessions at first, and just to see the dynamic. I think you could learn a lot from there and see if you see any red flags. And then, yeah, the besides measurables, we're going to talk about questions, right? Like, does this coach ask me anything? Like, is he interested in anything? Because, like, again, how are you going to know what to do with the player if you don't know how he feels, if he's going through something and, like,
What are his
emotional at the
goals?
moment? Is he hurt? Does he have a game tomorrow? Did he have a game yesterday? Does he have practice today? Like, I think all this stuff is so important when you're gonna decide what you're gonna do. So I think you're totally right in the head. Like, should be asking questions.
Short term, long term goals. I would throw in for red flags, like if your kid is leaving way too sore and he's sore for 5 days, and then on the other side is your kid leaving and not even sweating at all. So that balance is a
Right.
big part of it. But I love what you said about the parents watching, because one of the things, even as a coach, it's hard to convey, hey, I'm a good coach. Hey, you should trust me. But one of the blessings is that we get to work out in the open. There's no hiding in the park. There's no hiding when tonight I'm running a session for 20 kids. Everybody's there. I love it because, okay, you can hear me talk. You can watch our podcast. Please do. But nothing speaks as loud as the work. And I know you feel the same way. And again, you guys get to watch us work. We don't go behind a closed room. Just like on game day, everybody's going to watch the game. At the higher levels, people are watching you on TV. So it's something that I've slowly gotten more comfortable with, and I agree. There should be nothing to hide on that side. So if the coach is like, if he is, I don't know, if he is being sneaky and or whatever, or just not open with what he's working on or why he's working on it, or I think those are red flags, because those are at the front of every good trainer's mind, I think. And again, in general, but specific to your athlete, especially if we're talking about private training, but even in a team setting, there should be a plan for him, for your individual athlete to get better. There should be a plan for his position, his prospects for the future. Like you said, tracking his speed, all the data. So I think being able to work in the open is huge for us.
Definitely sets apart the haves from the have-nots, if you may, on that tip for sure. Yeah, parents just watch, and like we always get that, like, oh wow, I now I see the difference between like your training and somebody else's training, and that usually comes up a lot. And I think again, it's just a level of the professionalism and how much these coaches care about your kid. I know me and you really care about our clients, so we want the best for them. So that's why we prepare like the same way that we ask them to prepare. Is like we got to be really good to help you get really good. Just the same thing, which we took from sports. Just understanding that to continue to get better, you got to continuously try to work and get your craft better. And obviously, when you're really good, it's kind of what's the word? Transparent, like you were saying, can't hide. It's there. You either got it or you don't, because the only way to get good at coaching is by coaching for a lot of years, and like we were saying, having a philosophy, a methodology, like we spoke last week, to doing this. So now we can touch base, since you're talking about, right, training 20 kids, right, in one session with the club. Let's talk about what's the right hub or the right place to have your kid, as far as like a hub or like a base where they're gonna really hone their skills, whether it could be with the right trainer, with the right club. And then if you want to also touch base a little bit on environment, right, how that plays a part with the club and the trainer.
Right, right. And I think there's different levels to look at it at the club level and at the coach level, because there's amazing coaches sprinkled out throughout different clubs. At clubs, the organizations themselves, they all have their pros and cons, but each situation is so unique to the coach, because he's the one that's directly involved shaping that environment. And also, he's the one that's maintaining the relationships with the players themselves, as far as how he's progressing in the sport. So I think the coach has tremendous influence in your experience at the club. And again, it's different for everybody in every situation. And it's impossible. People ask me all the time, what's the best club? It depends. Depends where you fall in that club, who you fall with. It's tough because that people want a simple answer, and that makes it harder to find a home, and it is hard to find a home, and it's frustrating when athletes feel like they're not getting a fair chance. They've been loyal to a club for whatever reason, but they never get moved up, and they end up getting moved down in some cases. And man, I've seen it. It hurts athletes. It hurts their confidence. And a big part of it is what I think is, if you're at this club for 3, 4 years, why aren't you getting better? That's their job. And we could go into all the different reasons why, but I guess finding them home, like I said, like right now, I'm offering new athletes. I'm integrating new groups with the old groups, so we're making a new team. And I think a big part of it is the tone that is set in training, the standards, and the character of the individuals. And more now that I have the top teams, I'm looking at character as one of the number one factors in judging players, because players with strong character that are smart but also hard workers and gonna push the group. They're not selfish. They're gonna make the group better. That's the kind of home that I want, because at the end of the day, sorry, I don't know if you hear the message, but at the end of
It's
the
all
day,
good.
all we
Yeah, I
all we
thought it was me.
yeah.
I
Oh,
thought it was me.
no, no. At the end of the day, all we have is each other out there, So I really believe that it comes down to the coach, the teammates, and then of course, if you get a club that's organized, that has the competitive leagues, you can make the most out of that situation. But it's not one factor, and it's different for each individual because everybody's presented a unique opportunity, you
Yeah,
know.
I think that's where me and you kind of really good at, why we're really good coaches, because we help players where they're at. And that's kind of what parents got to take into consideration when they're figuring out where they're going to put their kid. It's like, where's your kid at? Where is he trying to go? Like you're saying, short term, long term goals. And obviously, like I think ultimately, if you're going to be spending money, is you got to try to take your kid somewhere where he's going to be able to play. So like you were saying, if kids aren't getting better, definitely they got to question that, right? They got to be more aware, and parents too. Like, why isn't my kid getting better if the club is supposed to kind of be helping me with this stuff? So that's one thing to look at. But ultimately, are you playing? Because I think also maybe you get moved down, but like wherever you're at, you got to be playing. I think that's super important too for players. Is like people got to be playing to get better, and if you're not playing that much, yeah, okay, you could still get better at a place, right, where you're like around a bunch of other really good kids and maybe they're helping you play more. But obviously, yeah, that still comes down ultimately to like, a kid maybe does get his opportunity and doesn't take advantage of it. Then you got to understand, kids got to be prepared, got to be ready. And that's where, like you were saying, holding kids kind of accountable, or choosing or understanding kids based on their character and how hard they work. Because, like, those kids tend to be the ones that play more, um, because it has to do a little bit with the character, and it has to do a little bit with, like we were talking earlier, like to get a lot out of the training, you got to be working hard, and hard obviously is the same thing. We can't measure it. It's not, you can't just answer it one simple way, like what's hard, but obviously like each player knows if they're trying or not. And I think that's the ultimately real like question that parents got to ask and kids got to ask, obviously athletes, is like, am I really working like as hard as I could? And that's back to what we were saying, internally driven or not. That's what's going to change and separate you a lot if you can manage to figure that out.
Yeah, I think that mindset is really important. And then just to touch real quick on the home, finding a correct home, the right club. You need to have a coach that cares. You need to have a club that's organized, that has competitive leagues. And then the players, the families have to play their part as well. They have to be committed. They also have to help instill the same values, the discipline. And yeah, man, I don't think you can go wrong in that situation. And of course, like you mentioned, the playing time, and I would add in having a role, really being part of the team, feeling important. I think that's super important for confidence, which ties right into performance. And yeah, so I would keep all those factors in mind. And again, if you go somewhere and they ask you to pay a few $1,000, but they don't ask you one question about your kid, or his history or his goals, I would think twice about what those motivations are from their side. So I work a little bit differently. I try not to put pressure on people. A lot of clubs give 24 hours, accept this offer or not. I don't want somebody to rush into signing for me and it not be the right fit for them. You know, come in, come watch our training, come look at the athletes that we developed, you know, talk to people, talk to us, and really see if it's a fit. And I like to do the same thing. I want to see if they're a fit for me. So, you know, there's a feeling out process, but some places don't even give you that. They want they want the upfront. You see about later, you know?
Right. So yeah, keep in mind in that, parents. And then, all right. So moving forward, we're going to now how to take advantage. So we were talking about off season training, right? And then so last little bit we're gonna touch on. Okay, so what are we gonna tell you? What can we tell you guys on how to take advantage of your summer? And also, what should you do in the of summer? Like, what should you be working on? So I'll start because we were saying you were touching base earlier on like, okay, what are the things we should be looking at in the off season program, kind of, right? So to me, it's kind of three things to every sport, and obviously, again, we can make it as complex as possible. I try to keep things simple. I'm the big like simple is genius guy. So to me, it comes down to three things, regardless of sport. Your sport skill, meaning like, can you do all the skills that your sport requires, and can you do them at a high level? And then depending on how skillful and that level is, that's going to determine a lot of like, if you're going to play. And my from my perspective, again, this is my opinion. I'm giving out how I approach my player development. And then the next thing we're going to look at is like athleticism. So in athleticism, I'm going to encompass strength, speed, reaction time, coordination. I mean, that one gets pretty, just like the sports skill. You can go on and on and on about what makes a good athlete. You can make a huge topic about what makes a good soccer player, right? Like we could go over that, or basketball player, or baseball player, or sprinter, or hockey player, or football player, like American football, right? Like what makes these guys good players? This huge, right? Same thing with what makes them good athletes. Huge, right? A lot. But I'm gonna break it down to the things that I think we can work on and measure and kind of have an idea if it's working or not working. Are we getting faster? Are we jumping higher? Are we stopping faster? And are we getting stronger? Right? I think all of those. And are we out of pain? Right? Are we out of pain? That's got to be important. Like, are we hurt all the time? Are we playing at 90% all the time? Are we playing at 85% all the time? Are we playing at 90% all the time? Where are we at? Because I think all that's going to encompass. And then third thing is your IQ, right? Like, do you understand your sport? Because when we think of the word game, I think people forget that anytime you play a game, there's like a cerebral side of it. There's like, and in high level sports, because speed is so fast and plays such a major role in it, whoever can make better decisions and has a better idea of how the game is played, right, or works, however you want to put that, I think they're gonna have an advantage. So, like I said, I'm breaking it down to sport skill, or like sport, how well do you play your sport, then how athletic are you based on your sport, and then how do you understand your sport, like, are you a really cerebral player? And then we can touch from that. So let's get your touch, coach, on what are you looking for.
Well, I love obviously the speed, the strength aspect. Again, we talked about how sometimes in the season this aspect is overlooked, especially by sports specific coaches, and they don't understand, or they don't have the time. They also don't make the time throughout the season. And I've always felt like those two things go hand in hand. More athletic players that have the skills. It's a beautiful marriage. A lot of times there's a big imbalance, and again, that's when you start to see the injuries, the overuse injuries. Just middle of the season, kids start to break down because they're not maintaining that certain level of fitness. So I think it's beautiful, the speed and strength component, trying to build the athletic foundation and matching it with the skills. I also love that you said the speed of thought, and people overlook this. And you could call it game IQ, understanding, intelligence, smart. A lot of times, I tell my players all the time, their best players are the smartest. Like, there's no such thing as a good player that's not smart. Now, there's book smart, and then there's decision making. There's decisions that you don't even think on a conscious level that are being made on the field all the time. And there has to be a certain level of a value attached to this, because those are the best players. And I know you feel it too. I feel it when I play, when you're in the zone. Things feel easy, but it's because you're thinking one step ahead. You're not just moving. Everything is connected. So I love the idea of speed of thought. Keep building your IQ in your sport, and then just combining all the skill work and the athletic work, and taking advantage of the extra time keeping track of things like speed, strength, documenting things so that you can see how you are at the beginning, the middle, the end of summer. And again, man, I love the opportunity right now for kids to be even more ready in August, because there is going to be those kids that, they're getting off the couch in August, and they're going to have a tough couple months trying to keep up with the other ones, and over time, who knows if they ever do. That's the reality as
No,
well.
and I can touch base from, I hope, I'm not gonna say any names, but I got a couple athletes, man, that have been with me for like 6 years, and I hope they listen to this. But they're a huge inspiration, and they're kids that I'm speaking to about all my younger kids. Because I'm with them. They're with me since 12. They're now about to, some are gonna get to play in college, some are not. But the main thing is that I always used to tell them, I'm like, hey, man, we gotta, like, the work we're doing right now, like, we gotta continue to do it. It's gotta be like a process, and like both of these players, what was funny is like they didn't take it serious till the last year before their senior year, right? But regardless, it's kind of what you were saying. They started as soon as off season finished junior year and had a really good senior year. And the main thing, that I think I want parents and players to understand is that, like, they put a really good like 6 months together and got some really good results. But what I want kids to understand out of that is like, if you would have had that approach for the last 4 summers, 5 summers, your senior year would be completely a different approach. Because look at what you got of just buckling down from, let's say, April to like whenever your season starts in the fall, right? Like that's like 6 7 months, right? So imagine stacking 4 or 5 years of that. And that's where I think kids need to understand that, like, you have to continue to do it. And when you decide to take it more serious, again, like we were talking about, that internal fire is when you will see a big change in what you get out of your summer training or like your training in general. But until you really commit, nothing's gonna really work as well as like what you could get just committing even for a little bit. But obviously, like we are talking about, discipline and consistency doesn't work on the little bit approach, but it's something that we definitely should take, because sometimes some kids do have those flashes where they'll take it serious for a little bit. They start turning the corner, but then they relax. So like, got to be able to put months and years together to really get to see some changes.
Sounds
All
good.
right. So then the next thing, what should you do in the summer, right? So we're gonna go base a little bit on like some schedules or like ideas that we maybe can recommend to players of what we tell our players to do, and then yeah, you guys can obviously use all this. And like we said last time, like this is the things that our clients pay us for. So if you guys want to use them, great. If you don't, it's okay. But we definitely could tell you that they work, right? So you want me to start, coach, or you want to go first?
Well, I got a couple. I was thinking, okay, I was thinking about this yesterday when I was training this girl. She's been leveling up and getting ready for tryouts, but it's also like she's at a certain level right now where she's pretty good, but what do we focus on? And I've been telling her, listen, you have to do like whatever the hardest thing for you is. That's what you need to do, specifically related to skills in the sport in soccer. So for her, like it's her left foot, it's certain ball mastery skills, certain, juggling that again, she's a great, but certain things they're just hard. They take time. And for me, like I think she needs to focus on that because she's already got a certain foundation, a certain baseline. She's not going to get any worse on the other stuff. But, just really nailing down those details, I think that is a great plan specific for her. In general, like we mentioned earlier, athletes need to be strength and conditioning. If they're not doing it in the season, at least please, now that you don't have school,
Right.
take the time, run your sprints, get your jumps in, hit up Coach E, hit me up. We're going to be working all summer. There's no excuse really. You have the time and, you can knock out a good S&C session in an hour and have the rest of the day to go to the pool or whatever.
30 minutes, 45 minutes, an
Yeah.
hour. I think this is what kids don't get, is that like it's more about you guys putting little micro doses into, especially like what coach was saying, into the stuff you don't like. So most athletes by default hate working out on their athleticism, because everybody thinks they're fast, everybody thinks they're strong, but that's why it's like an ego check for you guys to just work on it. And like coach was saying, like, you don't need a bunch of time. An hour to me is like, wow, if a kid can really lock in by himself and work out for an hour, he's on the right path. So I always think, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, even 20 minutes, man, for some kids at first. Think about if you get 4 20-minute workouts as opposed to zero, then let's take that. That's gonna do something, especially if you stack 3 months of them. If we're talking from April to August, that could have a big impact on your game.
Yeah, no, and I think that that consistency, that discipline is hard, right? But working hard is, I forgot where I heard it, but working hard is a talent. That's a talent. And if you shouldn't separate, "Hey, I'm good, so I don't have to work as hard." Like that's the most toxic mindset, because you're gonna get thrown in an environment eventually. Guess what? Everybody's good. No? Are you more driven? Are you working harder? Are you thinking about it more? Are you smarter? Are you making those better decisions? Are you taking care of your body?
Hmm.
It's a huge difference maker. So, yeah, no, I definitely think make the most out of your time. Find a good trainer, find a good environment where you're pushed, but you're still motivated to show up, and, you're held to a high standard. Be clear about your goals, short term, long term for next season, and just try to show up. Try to show up as much as possible, 4 or 5 days a week. I think I'm doing 5 days in the summer. What about you,
Yeah,
coach?
yeah. I think for sure that's like a dream goal. I think for a player, like if I had one player and he's down to listen to the approach, I think 5 days of training where like you guys with the time can really do 2 days, but like spread them out to not kill yourself and actually like get better. Because so now what do you do, right? You have to be spending some time on your skill side of the ball, like what coach was explaining on that player. Work on her left foot. It might be your left hand ball handler if you're a basketball player. It could be your route running if you're a wide receiver. It could be, your slap shot if you're a hockey player. Like there's a skill that you're not good at that you hate working on. So try to work on that, and obviously work on many things, but pick one. Try to do it a little bit every day, and then same thing with the strength training. You got to do something a little bit every day, a little bit every day, because that's just how you're gonna get changes and see differences. Once a week, I mean, I think if you're doing it really good, once a week is good. But if you're doing it by yourself, then like that might not be enough. So regardless, some is better than none, but definitely having some structure and having a plan, which is what we're saying, like hit us up. We do programming online. We do programming. If you want to come train with us in person in Florida, but definitely reach out. We have different options available, so you guys can have some real guidance through the whole summer, which I think is what me and coach are saying, like that you guys really need is somebody that can give you a plan to follow, and then after that, you got to be really willing to follow it.
And coach,
And
I want to
last,
throw in
yeah,
one
go
last
ahead.
uh, and I'll speak for myself, and I'd love to hear your input. But at some point, take a couple weeks off. I'm gonna do it personally. I know I've been working very hard this year, and for me, it's like it's great to work hard and to prioritize that, but it's also it's great to a part of staying motivated is like, what are we working so hard for? I think I'm gonna go to Bogota for a couple weeks and just reset, man, reset. And I think that's important for athletes too, so that you don't burn out. Now, of course, it's a delicate balance. You don't want to go backwards, but I just think from a mental, staying fresh standpoint, you should also make time to rest during the summer.
That's what we said. 5 days, right? 5 days. That's throwing in that 2 days should be rest, guys. So like we're really emphasizing the rest. How
Like
you
these two
set those
different
two rest
things.
days up, that's again something that we would provide for you in the programming based on your schedule, how what you're doing, if you're traveling, not traveling, do you have access to a gym? Do you not have access to a gym, or is there a field near you? All this stuff, but that's where like having some guidance and a coach can really help you. But yeah, definitely guys, rest. I think obviously kids are in a stressed. I hope, thank God, like I hope to God that they're not as stressed as adults that really do need to take maybe a week off to really reflect and just recharge the battery. But I definitely think, regardless, kids, you guys got to take a little time off your sport.
The thing is,
Pick
if you're working every day, like
right.
it doesn't hurt to take a week off. If going back to being consistent, and it's a
Well,
week, it's not a month, so
you're
it's
gonna
like
be right. A week is much different than a month, and even 2 weeks is much different than a week, right?
right.
But I think like what you're saying, regardless, like a week, even 2 weeks, like if you played your sport all year, like it might be really wise to take a week off from not because it's gonna bring that passion back. It's gonna make you miss it. It's gonna take some of that boringness away. So like finding those times to rest are important. And obviously in the summer, since it's your time to double down, since you can work more, you have more time though, so you can rest more if you just plan it accordingly. I think the planning thing
I have a question
is
for you.
important. What's up?
We didn't talk about it, but I want to hear the last final thing: the beach.
Right, beach. I mean, if you're in South Florida and you're not going to the beach once a week, man, like what are you doing? You're getting a lot of healing there from the salt water and the sand, the sun too. It's obviously can't really, you don't have like if you go there and hang out and just get off the phone and like just relax, like I guarantee you always leave with more energy. Only thing I would say on the beach to be careful is, if you're gonna stay there for like a ridiculous amount of hours,
Right, the
you're
sun.
probably gonna be super tired after. If you're again balanced, like notice everything we talk about, guys, in the podcast is about balance. Like your training, how much skill training, how much speed and strength training, how much rest, right? Like everything is kind of individualized a little bit. You guys can have some protocols, but you guys definitely beach isn't cool. Just going out to nature. Obviously, right now in Florida it's hot, so like it's probably better to go to the beach than anything else. But in the winter, Florida does have some cool preserves and some things. If you're in North Florida, obviously hitting the springs, connecting with nature, we think, me and you think, is a good way to recover and rest. So obviously, kids, if you want to tap into some of that, but just in general, try to unplug. I think that's one thing we can help the kids is like, guys, get off the phone a little bit. Like, get off TikTok a little bit, get off YouTube a little bit. Just let your mind rest, and like you'll see that you will be more excited about the like your training and your soccer, because all that stuff takes a lot of energy and endorphins. So if I was a player and I knew this stuff when I was younger, I would have tried to like have all those endorphins ready for the game. And like where I really something that I really care about that really matters, as opposed to like whatever's happening with an artist or something like that doesn't even affect your life whatsoever. And then, coach, we didn't touch base. Last thing you do have to be doing is, if you have game film, you should be watching some game film a couple times, maybe. What do you think? How many times a week, coach?
Man,
And the season.
this is funny that you brought this up because I was just talking to a parent and he was telling me, I don't believe in video game. I think they should be training. And I was like, okay, I understand. I understand that from they're looking at it just from a strictly work hard physical standpoint. But again, going back to the game IQ, to the game intelligence, it's one of the most effective tools. It's one that I'm going to be employing with my groups next season. We pay for this expensive camera to follow you around. We're going to use that tool because, man, I know for myself, I'm so visual. And people could explain things 10 times, but if I see it once, especially if it's yourself, especially if you're seeing the full picture from a different vantage point. You don't see the game from up there. I think it's tremendously useful. Yeah, if you have the extra time, review your game, start collecting highlights, start thinking about what decisions, what's going through your mind during the game. It's a huge factor. And yeah, I think this is definitely an in-season thing, but like everything, it should be a year-round thing. You should find the time to always work on it, and there's a reason why every college, every even respectable high school team, every higher level team, not even to mention semi-pro, they they spend the time on video review and analyzing and just helping athletes see the picture. So for me, it's a tremendous tool that's underutilized.
Yeah, perfect. So to wrap up, the last thing I want to touch base on, guys, before we sign off real quick is, guys, I want you to think this summer about the 10,000 hour rule. And, they say that it takes 10,000 hours to master something or become a professional at something. So I wanted to touch base on that and just break it down, guys. It's more about your iterations than your repetitions. And what is an iteration compared to a repetition? An iteration is just a more focused, aware repetition than just a blind repetition with no actual purpose. So, guys, to get good at something, you have to involve years, right? Times multiplied by your iterations. So back to what me and coach were talking on a podcast about, you guys trying to do your stuff the best way possible at all the time. Because if you guys are doing it like that, you're getting iterations instead of repetitions, which means that hopefully for you guys will reach your goal faster because you're being more focused about what you do. Yeah, it might take you more. Some people, like we were talking about, it's different for everybody. So some kids might take them longer, some kids might take them shorter. But definitely, if you have that approach, I definitely could tell you that it's probably going to help you more than if you're just doing it like, oh, it doesn't matter. If you really try to do it right, hone it, um, do it really well, iterations is going to get you guys to be really fast, jump really high, be really good at your sport, make that pass, stop that ball, whatever it is you're trying to get better within your game. If you're putting the iterations and actually trying to do it with some purpose and effort, you will see a big change.
It helps you adapt to whatever situation that the sport demands in that moment. And yeah, every rep is not the same. And I tell my guys, like Mbappe, he's doing 9 out of 10 perfect. You know, if you're giving me 2 or 3 out of 10, going back to the consistency, quality of rep, I'm like, this is why he's Mbappe because he's hitting that one that you're hitting twice, he's hitting it 9 times.
Right. You want to be like Steph Curry. Steph Curry's going 5 for 5 from each spot. You're
Right.
going 2 for 5 or 1 for 5, and you're telling me you're a good shooter.
It's only 3 baskets away,
Yeah,
Eric,
but
but it's
it's
the consistency.
you understand that difference though, because if you can make 5 out of 5 in the game, you're gonna have a higher percentage of making it because even the best players miss. Like even Mape is gonna
Of course,
practice that shot and make it in practice 9 out of 10, but in the game he might miss it sometimes.
of
But
course.
that's okay. Like that's the purpose of being ready. That if you get the opportunity 2 or 3 times, you're gonna have a higher percentage of completing it.
You gotta take the chance when you get it, and it's, you know, that just comes through time, through confidence,
Repetition,
iteration.
confidence, the iterations, so guys, we wanted to thank you guys again for spending this 65 minutes with us. Again, coaching connection, mastering youth sports with coach Eric and coach Sergio. Thank you guys. Stay tuned. Please hit us up if you guys want to train with us. Like I said, we offer online training and in-person training. I think I'm gonna try to put our handles on in the descriptions for the next podcast, so you guys could kind of just click it there and get to it faster on Instagram. So you guys give us a DM, and of course, thank you. Anything
Also,
else,
some
Coach?
guests soon. Some guests coming soon.
Oh yeah, guys. So just letting you guys know, we will have a couple guests next week. We'll be back, just me and Coach. But then week 4 and week 5, we're gonna have some cool guests on. Some famous people in our life. So you guys stay tuned, get ready, and yeah, Coach. Anything else before we say bye?
No, guys, I wish every athlete the best on their journey. And brother, I'm so happy that we're able to connect. And I find these conversations very, very useful and helpful for me.
Super dope, man. Thankful for
Appreciate it,
you
man.
too, my brother. Thankful for you too. And yeah, man, we're getting better. We're just all a reflection of each other, and it's dope to just continue to grow with my long life friend, and of course get to talk about the stuff we always talk about. This is what we talk about anyway, all the
Right,
time.
right.
So it's just recorded for people to learn alongside with us. So thank you
Absolutely.
guys. Have a blessed day, and we'll see you guys soon.
Peace.